Hey everyone, welcome back to Das Haus with Thomas Gunn, and today we're going to be making a German cherry quark cake. So if you don't know, quark is a cheese a lot of Germans use in baking. It's a little bit similar to either like a mascarpone or cottage cheese, but do get the smooth one. Quark is Q-U-A-R-K. And in our grocery stores, it's typically in the section where the sour cream is. So this cake was sent to me by my cousin in Germany. It's got two parts. We're going to need a crust and then there's a topping. While we're doing this, you can preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You can also prepare yourself a cake plate. So I'm going to be using this glass dish, and I've greased the bottom just with some butter. You don't need to flour glass. If you're using a spring form, let me show you. So a spring form is a cake pan like this, where the bottom comes out. If you're going to use one of these, butter and flour it, all right? So because I wanted to be able to cut it into squares as opposed to wedges, that's why I'm going to use the glass plate. So let's get that back there. So let's go ahead and make the crust. So for the crust, you're going to need 300 grams of flour. And in here I have 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Get that in there. You're going to need 150 grams of regular white sugar. You will need 100 grams of butter, slightly chilled. You don't want it too soft. A pinch of salt, which I had already mixed into my flour. And let me see on my list here, and we're going to need 1 egg. So before I add the egg, I'm just going to start to crumble this a little bit. So you're just going to take, you could use a pastry cutter, you could use 2 knives, you could use a fork, I suppose. But with your hands it goes quick. So I'm just going to crack in my egg now. It's 1 large egg. Make sure you break up the yolk. So that's it for the crust. So we're going to work this until all the flour is incorporated. Then, just let me roll up my sleeve here. Then we're going to take, I believe it's 2/3, yeah, 2/3 of it. And we're going to put that into our glass baking dish, or whatever baking dish you've decided to use. And then the other third is going to be used as a crumble on top. So I'm just going to keep working this until all the butter is incorporated, until you see how it's starting to, if you squeeze it, it holds together, but as you apply pressure, it crumbles apart again. That's what you're looking for. And the more you work this, the softer the butter will get, the warmer the butter gets. I like to pull it into my hands, give it a good tight squeeze, and break it apart. So if you're not good eyeballing 2/3 versus 1/3, you could measure this whole amount and then divide it. It looks to me like it's probably about 3 cups worth. So you could put 2 cups of it. So there we go. I think that's well incorporated. Let me get a measuring cup here just to see if our measurement is right. So that would be 1 cup. Yeah, it's definitely at least 3 cups. So let's take 2 cups and put that into our dish. I would even say another quarter. So 2 1/4 cups. Shake that around. You do want it to slightly come up the sides, so we're going to give that a head start. And then you can take your measuring cup, that's just my oven preheating, and then tap it down. And tap the sides with your fingers. It doesn't have to come far up the side. So I can see a few little spots here and there where I could use some more. Just going to do that, fill those spots in. All right, there we go. Put that aside. Get yourselves another bowl, and now we're going to, oh, incidentally, at the same time that you're doing this, get yourself 2 jars of preserved cherries and strain them. Run the liquid off them so they get fairly dry. I'm already doing that. So now for the topping, you will need the 500 grams of quark. You will need 3 eggs, just regular large eggs. That's 2, 3. You will need 75 grams of regular sugar. You will need 1 tablespoon of fresh, I squeezed a fresh lemon juice. Get a whisk, or maybe even a wooden spoon. I'm gonna take a whisk. Let's start with a wooden spoon just to get the cheese going, and then we can switch over to a whisk. So the interesting ingredient that we're going to still need is cream of wheat, which in German is Grieß, G-R-I-E-S. So I just bought, regular cream of wheat from the grocery store, and you're going to need 2 tablespoons of that. Okay, so we've got this going. Let's switch over to our whisk. Get this creamed. So there we go. Now we're going to add this is what the cream of wheat looks like. Oh, sorry, I didn't see your nut and frame there. Our 2 tablespoons of cream of wheat. Going to mix that in. I'm not sure where the video cut out, so let me just go move back. This is the topping that we did. So this was the 500 grams of quark, 3 eggs, 75 grams sugar, 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice, and 2 tablespoons of cream of wheat. All right, so there we go. That's all mixed up with the cream of wheat. Now we're just going to go to the assembly part. Here we have the crust that we made. So I'll just go over the ingredients really quick again with you. That was 300 grams flour, a teaspoon baking powder, pinch of salt, 100 grams butter, 150 grams of sugar, and 1 egg. Now we're going to take our cherries. I'll measure it for you so you can see how many I'm using. That's 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups. It's 3 cups cherries. There we go, just make sure it's an even layer. And now you're going to take the topping and spoon that over the top. I mean, this is fairly simple, guys, but the flavors, especially with the Quark, is very typical German. So we're going to spread that. There we go. Just make sure it's a nice even layer. Remember, your oven is preheating to 350. Mine's already done so. So now you're going to take the leftover third of the crumble, squeeze it tight in your hand, and then just let it crumble over the top. And that's it. So then it will go in the oven for about 45 minutes. That's what the recipe says, but I get the feeling for some reason that ovens in Germany are a little different than ours. It also said 200 degrees, but that's almost 400. I think that's a little high, so that's why I've adjusted it to 350. And I will let you know how long it takes in my oven. I'm going to set it for half an hour and see how we're doing. So there we go. So this now goes in the oven, and once it's done, I'll come back, show you the finished product, and I'll tell you how long it took. Alright folks, there we go. So it turns out it was actually in the oven for exactly 45 minutes. It's still really hot, so I'm not going to cut it now because this really needs to set, because the top is a little bit like a custard. So I'm just going to let this sit. It's probably going to take a good 30 minutes to an hour to really cool down. And there you go. So I hope you give this recipe a try. It's really very simple. Beginning to end, it took really an hour, I guess. So yeah, give it a try. Like this video and subscribe to my channel. That would be really helpful. And bon appetit. Bye bye.